Secrets buried in the backyard. The unearthed truth. Before we begin, hit subscribe, like, and turn on notifications, because this story, it'll make you look at your own backyard differently. It started on a quiet Sunday morning in the small town of Hollow Creek, Indiana, the kind of place where everyone mowed their lawns on Saturdays and waved at each other from their driveways. But that peace shattered the day Daniel Harris decided to dig a garden behind his newly bought house. The first sign that something was wrong came when his shovel struck metal. Then, fabric. Then, something that wasn't supposed to be there. By 10:47 a.m., Hollow Creek police had sealed off the property. What began as a home improvement project had turned into a crime scene. Buried just 3 feet beneath Daniel's backyard was a decaying trunk, wrapped in black plastic and rope. Inside lay something that turned the entire neighborhood into a frenzy of fear. Detective Rachel Monroe, a sharp and unflinching investigator with 10 years on the force, arrived on the scene. She was calm, but her instincts screamed that this case wasn't random. The trunk wasn't buried in haste. It was precise, deliberate. Whoever had done this knew the property intimately. The contents of the trunk were worse than anyone imagined. Personal belongings, a small locket, a faded children's drawing, a torn photograph of a family smiling in front of the same house. But one face had been burned away. Neighbors swore they'd never seen the people in the photo. The previous owner was quiet, one woman said. Moved out suddenly a few years back after his wife passed. Never came back. That man was Richard Cole, a retired carpenter who had lived there for nearly 2 decades. His wife Helen had supposedly died of illness, but her death certificate had never been officially filed. Rachel knew the story didn't add up. She pulled old county records, only to find something chilling. There had been no record of Helen Cole at all. No birth certificate, no ID, nothing. As if she'd never existed. The next day, forensic teams uncovered a second trunk, smaller than the first, buried deeper under a maple tree. Inside were burnt remains of personal journals, all belonging to Helen. The last entry was dated October 12, 2019 and read, "He's digging again, but this time it's not for work." Rachel's mind raced. If Helen had written that days before her death, it meant she had known something, or someone, was watching her. She drove to the nursing home where Richard Cole had been living since selling the property. He was frail, gray-haired, and soft-spoken, but when she mentioned the trunk, his demeanor shifted. His voice dropped to a whisper. "You shouldn't have opened it." When Rachel pressed him for more, he leaned forward, his eyes sharp despite his age. "She made me promise. If anyone dug up that yard, it would start again." "Start what?" Rachel asked. He didn't answer, only smiled faintly and looked toward the window where the rain had begun to fall. Later that night, Rachel received the autopsy report. The bones inside the trunk didn't belong to one person. They belonged to 2, one adult female, one child, and neither matched Helen Cole's supposed age or DNA. That discovery changed everything. It meant the man who'd lived on that property for 20 years hadn't buried his wife. He'd buried someone else's family. The next morning, Rachel ordered the backyard fully excavated. As workers dug, the sound of rain mixed with the metallic clang of shovels striking something hard. And then, buried beneath the last layer of soil, they uncovered a rusted metal plaque. Etched into it, barely visible through mud and corrosion, were 3 words that made the entire site go silent. "She never left." Rachel stared down, heart pounding, as thunder rolled over Hollow Creek. This wasn't just a murder. This was a message, the forgotten ones. If you think this mystery can't get darker, just wait. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. What Detective Monroe uncovers next is the stuff that nightmares are made of. Detective Rachel Monroe stood in the rain, staring at the rusted metal plaque, the words, "She never left," echoing in her mind like a bad omen. The excavation had revealed far more than she anticipated. 2 bodies, a woman and a child, buried in the yard of Richard Cole's house. But they weren't identified as Helen Cole or anyone related to Richard. They were strangers. The police quickly secured the scene, and forensic teams worked into the night, carefully removing the remains and cataloging every piece of evidence. But the true shock came when they began to search Richard Cole's belongings in his nursing home room. In a drawer, they found a box filled with old yellowed documents. Among them was a crumpled and family photo. A picture of a man, woman, and a young girl in front of a house that looked eerily familiar. The girl in the photo had a bright smile. Rachel didn't recognize her, but she could feel the weight of the scene pressing on her. The photo was connected to the house and to the bodies buried in the backyard. The photo was dated October 1997, almost exactly 2 decades before the excavation. The people in it weren't Helen and Richard, but strangers. Strangers who had lived in Hollow Creek, who had disappeared, leaving behind nothing but dust and shadows. Rachel went through the police records, searching for anyone who had disappeared in or around Hollow Creek. The names were buried in old cold cases, but one stood out. Kara Matthews, a 27-year-old schoolteacher, had gone missing in 1997, along with her 6-year-old daughter, Lily. According to the case file, Kara and Lily had vanished without a trace. No signs of a struggle. No ransom note. No witnesses. Just a trail of unanswered questions. The case had been closed after a year with no leads. The police believed they had simply run away. But Rachel knew better. It wasn't just a coincidence that this photo, this family, appeared in Richard Cole's room. The next day, she went to visit Kara Matthews' parents. They lived just outside Hollow Creek, in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The older couple was visibly shaken when they saw Rachel. They hadn't heard from Kara in decades. Rachel showed them the photo. That's Kara," said Margaret Matthews, her voice trembling. "But why would Richard Cole have a picture of her?" Rachel's mind was spinning. Richard had a history of being a quiet, reclusive man. But this was something else. How had he known Kara and Lily? And what connection did they have to the bodies buried in his backyard? Margaret's voice broke as she spoke again. Kara wasn't the type to run away. She loved Lily more than anything in this world. They wouldn't have just disappeared without telling us. Something happened to them. Something terrible. Rachel promised to find out the truth. The next step was clear. Richard Cole needed to be questioned. That evening, Rachel drove to get to Cedar Haven Nursing Home, where Richard Cole had been living since selling his house. He was sitting in a common area, staring out the window, oblivious to her arrival. When she approached, he didn't even flinch. "Mr. Cole," Rachel said firmly, "I need to ask you about Kara Matthews and her daughter Lily." Richard's eyes shifted, but he didn't respond. He seemed lost, as though her words weren't registering. Then he turned slowly and met her gaze for the first time. "You don't understand," he muttered, voice hoarse. "She begged me to help. She begged me to make it stop." Rachel's pulse quickened. "Make what stop, Mr. Cole? What had happened to Kara Matthews?" Richard's hands trembled as he clasped them together in his lap. "I buried them. I had no choice." He paused, his eyes glossing over. They were the ones who never left. They were the ones who kept coming back. Rachel leaned in, her breath catching in her throat. "Who kept coming back?" His voice dropped to a whisper. "The ones they made me bury. They wouldn't stop. I had to stop them before they took anyone else." Before Rachel could ask him anything further, Richard Cole's eyes glazed over. His face went pale. "I buried them all," he whispered. "And now Now they're angry. Rachel's heart pounded. She knew she was getting close. This wasn't just a case of murder. It was something deeper, darker. That night, as Rachel sat alone in her office, she reviewed the case files again. Her eyes widened as a connection formed. Richard Cole had not just buried Kara and Lily Matthews. He had buried others too. In the past few weeks, she had been getting strange reports from other cold cases. People who had gone missing, their cases never fully solved. And now, she realized, the connection. The same house, the same backyard, the same secrets. As she stared at the file, the final piece clicked into place. But it was a horrifying thought. A thought that would change everything about how this case would unfold. When Rachel looked up, she found herself staring into the eyes of a man who had been watching her all along. The surveillance photos, from inside her own office, were staring back at her. And someone, somewhere, was still watching. The truth beneath the surface. If you think you've heard the worst of this case, think again. The truth will shock you, and it's hidden right under your feet. Hit subscribe, like, and comment below, because you're not going to want to miss how this all ends. Detective Judd, Rachel Monroe, could feel the weight of the case bearing down on her. The unsettling realization that the man responsible for burying the bodies on a Maple Street had been hiding in plain sight, watching her every move, sent a chill through her. The files in her hands were no longer just cold cases. They were pieces of a puzzle that led back to Richard Cole. But now, the pieces were too scattered, too incomplete. Rachel spent the next few days in a frenzy of interviews, digging into more cold cases from the area. It became clear, this wasn't just about Kara Matthews and her daughter Lily. There were other names, other faces, people who had disappeared or been killed over the years, all connected to the house on Maple Street. But there was something even more disturbing. The house itself seemed to hold its own secrets, as if the land itself was a witness to the crimes that had taken place. Rachel kept thinking about the words Richard had said to her. They kept coming back. Who were these they? And why had he been forced to bury them? On the fourth night after speaking with Richard, Rachel received a tip that would change everything. An anonymous phone call. The voice on the other end was muffled. The words rushed. You're looking in the wrong place. The truth isn't buried in the yard. It's buried beneath the house. Rachel hung up the phone, her mind racing. She had already searched the house, the yard, even the foundations. But she hadn't looked beneath the structure itself. The crawl space, where old homes kept their darkest secrets. She wasted no time. With a team of officers, Rachel arrived at Maple Street just after midnight. The house loomed in front of them, bathed in the eerie glow of flashlights. This time, Rachel knew exactly where to look. In the crawl space beneath the house, the air was thick with dust and the stench of old wood. As Rachel crawled further into the space, her flashlight caught something metallic buried under the floorboards. A rusted, old toolbox. With a few careful swings of a crowbar, Rachel opened the toolbox. Inside, she found a set of detailed maps of the neighborhood, a few old receipts, and another photograph. But this time, it was not of Richard Cole or his victims. It was of Rachel herself. The photo was taken recently. She recognized the street behind her, the alley she walked down each morning. Someone had been watching her all along, and it was clear now that they had been planning something bigger. Monroe, one of the officers called, pulling her out of her thoughts. He was holding something wrapped in a dirty cloth. As Rachel took the cloth from him, she found the object inside, a small, locked box. It looked like it had been buried for years. With trembling hands, she opened it. Inside was a set of keys. One for the house on Maple Street, and the other for a storage unit on the edge of town. There was also a handwritten note. "The house holds the answers. It's time you learned the truth." Rachel felt her heart race as she examined the keys, the storage unit, the house. She knew where she had to go next. She drove to the Yet storage facility, her mind spinning with questions. What had Richard Cole hidden for all these years? What secrets did the house hold? The storage unit was old, and the lock was rusted, but it opened easily. Inside was a set of boxes filled with old paperwork, receipts, contracts, and photos. As Rachel flipped through the boxes, one image caught her attention. It was a photo of Richard Cole, standing with another man, someone Rachel had never seen before. They were standing in front of a warehouse. The man in the photo was holding a set of blueprints for a construction project, but it wasn't any building she recognized. The warehouse was under construction, and there were multiple floors being added. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. The warehouse was part of an underground operation. Richard Cole had been involved in something much bigger than anyone realized, and the bodies buried under the house weren't the only dark secret hidden in Hollow Creek. Eek. But as Rachel stared at the photo, a voice broke through her thoughts. "You shouldn't have come here, detective." Rachel turned. Standing in the doorway of the storage unit was a figure in a dark coat, the face obscured. The silhouette was familiar, and in the dim light, Rachel knew who it was before he even spoke. "Richard," she whispered. He stepped forward into the light, his face cold and emotionless. "You've been looking for the wrong answers," he said, his voice eerily calm. "You've just uncovered the beginning of the truth, but now you'll never get the rest." Rachel felt her pulse quicken. She was no longer in control. The man who had buried his past, and so many bodies, in the yard of that house, was finally here to finish what he'd started. But as Richard took a step forward, Rachel's mind raced for a way out, for one last chance to uncover the truth. If you thought this case was solved, think again. What Detective Monroe uncovers next will haunt you. Like, subscribe, and comment if you want to see how far this mystery goes, because what happens next will make your skin crawl.